Part 1 of the Bone Collector. The desert doesn't bury its secrets. It displays them proudly. Bones scattered like whispers. Ribs splayed open like bleached claws. Skulls cracked and silent. This place doesn't rot. It preserves. And in the middle of it all, there's a shadow that circles high above, waiting, watching, choosing. I didn't come out here for birds. I came chasing a mystery, an ancient trail of bone piles, all stripped of flesh, but not disturbed by scavengers. No coyotes, no yacals, no footprints but my own. And yet, the bones were broken, shattered, hollowed, like something had cracked them open for the marrow. The stories told in the local villages called it the Bone Collector. They said it didn't kill. It just waited. And when it came, nothing was left but dust and clean, broken remains. I set up camp near a canyon ledge where the last pile was found. Dry wind, no sound, the kind of silence that makes your heartbeat sound loud. And then, I saw it, far above me, a shape gliding in a slow, deliberate circle. Wings outstretched, longer than I expected. Black, orange, flame against the blue, and eyes like red glass, staring straight into me. It didn't flap. It didn't cry. It simply hovered, floating, still, as if suspended by the desert itself. And then it vanished behind the cliffs. I'd seen my ghost, but this ghost had feathers and blood on its beak. The Bone Collector continued. I didn't sleep that night. The wind never stopped, but it never howled either. It whispered, like something was just outside the tent, walking in slow circles. Or maybe it was above me, watching. By morning, I found the bones had moved. The same pile from yesterday was different. The long femur was gone. In its place, a cracked rib, split down the center like it had been dropped from a height. I packed quickly and followed the cliff edge. My boots hit dust and stone, but every so often, I'd see it. An odd bone here, a feather there. Orange-tipped, large. And then I saw it again. Wings spread, gliding low now. It landed, not far, on a flat rock just across the canyon, like a throne it had claimed. Its talons gripped the edge as it dropped something from its beak. A bone, thick, heavy. It hit the rocks below with a sharp crack. Then silence. This was no ordinary bird. Its beard of dark feathers gave it a regal, almost ancient look. Its face, clean, sharp, not like a vulture's. This creature didn't scavenge for filth. It chose only what was worth the risk. A Lammergeier, also known as the Bearded Vulture. But out here, far from his mountain strongholds, it looked like something older, more primal, like a relic from another age that had refused to die. And then it flew again, no warning. Just lift, wings open, and gone. The Bone Collector continued. I climbed down into the canyon where the bone had fallen. It had shattered, split clean. Inside, there was nothing left, not even the marrow. The Lammergeier doesn't tear or chew. It doesn't need claws like a hawk or the brute force of an eagle. It uses gravity. It waits until the moment is right, then lifts the bone high into the sky, only to let the earth finish the job. That was the sound I'd been hearing at night. Not footsteps, not whispers, just the sound of death being recycled. The deeper I followed the trail, the more I realized this wasn't scavenging. This was ritual. The bird had its own territory, its own process. Each bone placed or dropped in a deliberate area. Some had been moved multiple times, like it was looking for the perfect fracture. I kept walking until the canyon narrowed. Walls rose steep and silent around me. And that's when I saw them. Hundreds of bones. Stacked, scattered, shattered. Every one stripped clean. No other predator worked this way. No other bird left behind a map of the dead. The air felt heavier. Not from heat, but from presence. Like I had entered something sacred. And then, directly above me, it appeared again. Wings wide. A low gust of wind followed its shadow. It circled once, twice, then dropped something. I stepped back. It wasn't a bone. It was a skull. The Bone Collector continued. It hit the ground near my feet and bounced once before coming to a stop. Goat, maybe mountain sheep. Small, dry. The top of the skull caved in from fall. But it wasn't random. It felt delivered. The Lammergeiers circled again, then disappeared behind the cliffs. leaving nothing but the sound of shifting wind and the steady tick of sand against rock. I picked up the skull. Light, hollow, the bone thin by time and weather, but broken clean like every other. This bird wasn't just surviving, it was thriving by doing what no other predator dared. Out here, in the open graveyard of the desert, it had found a way to dominate without force, to rule without blood. It turned death into a process, and the remains into trophies. The locals feared it, called it a demon, a thief of bones. But I saw something else, an engineer of silence, a master of patience, and maybe, in some strange way, a collector of time itself. By noon, the heat was unbearable, but I didn't leave. I couldn't. Something about this creature had taken hold of me. Not just what it was, but what it meant. The Lammergeier didn't hunt flesh. It hunted what remained when everything else gave up. It didn't rush. It didn't struggle. It simply waited for the world to fall apart. And then it chose the bones worth keeping. The final and complete closing of the BoneCollector. I stayed for 2 more days. The Lammergeier never landed near me again. It watched from high above, a silent sentinel against the blue. And every evening it dropped something, small bones, pieces of what was once alive. Not for food, not for me, for ritual, for memory. On the 3rd morning, I left. But I took nothing, not a feather, not a bone, because this place wasn't mine. It belonged to the aftermath. Weeks later, I returned to the same villages, told the elders what I saw, showed them drawings, spoke of flight patterns, gravity feeding, ecological impact. But their eyes didn't change. They weren't interested in facts. They already knew the truth. They didn't need science to explain the BoneCollector. They had lived beneath its shadow for generations. They didn't see it as a bird. They saw it as balance, as a keeper of endings. And now I understand why. The Lammergeier doesn't just live on bones. It lives on time, on the final chapter of things. It is the punctuation at the end of a life sentence. The last visitor to the dead. Most predators kill, but the BoneCollector waits. It waits for the end, then decides what matters. Even now, I can't stop thinking about it. How it glided above me. How it dropped the skull like a message. How in its silence, it said more than any roar ever could. I came to the desert to study death. Instead, I learned about what follows. Not decay, not forgetting, but a strange kind of remembrance. A ritual, a purpose. In the silence, the BoneCollector chooses. And that choice is what echoes long after the bones are gone. End of episode. Animal Aftermath, the BoneCollector. At Animal Aftermath,